Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 65 today for the Brazilian Grand Prix in Season 3, the second last race of this season. It is really getting tense now. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Mexican Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see the rest of this one. But it was a very good episode for us at Mexico. Spoiler alert, with the race win, our fourth one under our belt, we have a bit of a cushion now in the Drivers' Championship, but Brazil is going to be difficult. Abu Dhabi is going to be difficult, so it's not done yet, but we're obviously in the driving seat. We're the ones now in the lead of the championship, once again ahead of Leclerc and Verstappen. Also, I didn't realize last episode, we did seal out the constructors. I thought it was going to be this episode, but mathematically, no one else can win it after that 1-2 we had. Obviously, Verstappen second still did a decent job after being overtaken by myself, so we did win our second constructors title in a row then, back to back. Obviously the first in the team's history. Very, very cool stuff to round that out. Obviously it's been a very, I would say, consistent year. I mean, obviously we've had a few little blips and some wild races, but generally speaking as well, myself and Verstappen have always kept it in the kind of top frame of the points, and, you know, constructors wise, no one's really ever bothered us too much. But Drivers' Championship wise, you can see we've got that fourth win, and I didn't realize it actually at the time, but that puts us level with Verstappen in terms of wins he's got. He's got 4 wins for the team. I've got 4 wins. Leclerc with 5 and Sainz with 4 as well. So I thought they had way more wins than I did this season, but we've actually done well to catch up in this kind of second half of the season, I guess. You know, we got 2 wins early doors. You know, the last one was the Dutch GP, and then we had obviously Singapore and then Mexico. So we've done well to match Verstappen, because obviously last season we actually lost out to a number of wins compared to our then teammate Carlos Sainz. But yeah, we've got this cushion now to Leclerc, but I think this track's going to be difficult for us. The AI are very consistent around here. And then, as I mentioned last episode, even Abu Dhabi, I feel like it in the past has been good for me, but last season, we really struggled to match Leclerc, you know, toe-to-toe to try and catch him for that championship fight back then. So we can't be, you know, too confident this season either. So we need to make sure we try and maintain as much of his lead as we can. And if we can also beat Leclerc, that'd be ideal. But going into Saturday, it's looking interesting already. We've got some rain here. Intermediates are the tire of choice at the start of Q1. So already that classic turbulent Brazilian kind of weather forecast for the race weekend is coming in. There's some rain. It's going to dry out though. So by the time we get through to the second part of Q1, it's time to go onto the slick tyres, but the track is very green. You can see the understeer I've got there into turns 1 and 2, and we actually abandoned this lap. I've fueled up the car for 3 consecutive laps, so we just continued on, but the track is very, very raw, having obviously, you know, all the grip was washed away with the rain at the very start there, but I think there's also some forecast for some showers potentially on Sunday as well, so it's going to be that kind of classic Brazil topsy-turvy race weekend. You love to see it, but maybe not if you're me in the driving seat trying to maintain the lead in the championship against some very quick drivers in the form of Verstappen and Leclerc, as always, ever consistent there. Leclerc obviously got beat by Ricciardo last episode, but I suspect Ferrari will be strong here still again. But even if Red Bull are as well, you know, our car, we'll have to see how it goes. You know, there's no guarantee we'll be as quick as we were at Mexico. It's a very different circuit, of course, a lot more high speed in nature, and those sort of circuits before this season, Ferrari have looked very, very strong, so let's watch out for that. But right now, it's all about just getting through into the second part of qualifying. We set 3 lap times there. Obviously, the first one was banker, 2 better ones, and we do get through. There's always that kind of chance, though, how much is the track going to improve off wet conditions, but thankfully, make it through into P7. But Sainz looking very strong there, but equally so, Leclerc and Giovinazzi right up there as well. But also, Kvyat and Norris, they beat me there. Renault and McLaren, obviously in recent races, they've looked really strong, especially Renault. They've really, really looked strong. So let's see how they do as well. But into Q2, I saw Leclerc was out on medium tyres as well as Verstappen. So we've gone out on mediums, and we're going to try and qualify on the harder compounder tyre here out of the, obviously, 2 here that you'd really use. Obviously, you wouldn't ever try and qualify on hard tyres, but some people out on soft tyres, I love the kind of McLarens and the Renaults, but I think both Ferraris, or Leclerc and Gio, myself and Verstappen, and I think also the Red Bulls are trying this, so we're all going to try and qualify on the medium tyre. Obviously, might open up a bit of a better strategy window, because the tyre wear is a little bit higher at Brazil, so maybe this could open up a one-stop, a little bit easier of a one-stop from mediums to hards. Although, to be fair, I think last season, didn't we do a one-stop anyway from soft tyres, I think, so it may not matter too much, but we're in P7 now, looking okay. Leclerc, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, and Kvyat also on mediums. All four of those guys looking quick, but I can't believe the Renault is on mediums and he's up in P4 there, but we're a little bit slower than those guys. Giovinazzi even slower. He's down in the drop zone on the medium tires, but with 2 minutes to go, I have run out of time to go out, and I'm basically gambling now that I can make it through. And you know what? Looking at the times, this is quite a big gamble. There's only like a 10th in between myself and P7 down to P12 that was. So this is going to be very fine. At the end of the session, we go to black, come out of black on the load screen, and we are out. We took the gamble, and it's not paid off. Giovinazzi also out, even though he actually went out on a set of soft tyres, but we are out. We're the only man who tried the mediums that has been knocked out. Leclerc made it through, Sainz, Verstappen, even Kvyat in the Renault made it through on mediums. This is insane. And to be fair also, you can see it was a very fine gamble, because even now, even though I'm knocked out, I'm only 1/10 away from making it through. So it was very, very fine. You know, one corner maybe that I could have done better on that medium lap time, and I would have made it through, basically. It was probably just one lock-up somewhere, one little bit of understeer. So that's massive for us. That's actually really, really massive. That's huge news for the championship and this race fight now, because we're on the back foot now, down in P13. Got it all to do in the race, and the other guys ahead of us, they might be on a better one-stop strategy on medium tyres. You never know. Obviously, we did love the hard tyre, though, last season in Season 2, so I'm still confident we can make it back through, but beating Leclerc and Verstappen is another thing compared to just making our way back through into some good points. But I guess we'll just have to see. There might be some rain to come as well on Sunday, so it's going to be a very topsy-turvy one. Let's go to the grid.
Formula One returns to Sao Paulo once again, with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Brazilian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his third championship here in 2012, and in 2016, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. Two very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the two DRS zones will be the key to any overtaking prospects today. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Why don't we kick off by discussing Kevin Magnussen? There's a new gearbox in the back of that car, which means a grid penalty, and hopefully some excitement as they make their way through the field.
Fingers crossed that's one failure they won't have to worry about today at least. There's not much of a silver lining to starting down the field with a penalty, but I think they'll be able to make some of that back up over the course of the race.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and talented Spaniard Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Kvyat, Lando Norris, and Ocon, Albon, Bottas, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. Gasly, the owner-driver, Lance Stroll, and Perez, Giovinazzi, Russell, Nick de Vries, and Roman Grosjean, Matsushita, Magnussen, Aitken, they've taken a grid penalty, and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So we have a very interesting grid then for this race. It looks like Verstappen did actually get pole position, it seems, and then had a grid penalty, so he's down to P10. So in the end, even though we got knocked out, we actually only start one row behind our teammate, directly behind him actually. But our main competitor, Leclerc, he is now on pole position, Sainz in second, and Ricciardo third. So pretty much all our rivals right up there in the top three positions. So getting on the podium today is going to be very difficult difficult because I suspect the Red Bulls and Ferrari will just run away with it. Let's see, I don't know. I'm hoping the Red Bulls can attack Leclerc to push him down the order. You've got Fiat in a lofty P4 doing a madness there ahead of both McLarens and way ahead of his teammate, really. So it's really a massive job by the Russian as an individual to get his car up there. But for us and even Verstappen now, both of us in the championship fight have work to do because it's not just me now. Even he's got to make up time and get through these overtakes. The difference is, though, he has to start on the mediums because he did qualify into Q3, so he has to start on that compound tyre, whereas I have a free choice, and I actually am going to go with the soft compound, even though, yes, the carcass temperature is going to be an issue at the end of the stint. Clearly, the one stop's possible on that. I think we did do the one stop from soft tyres last season, and now, coming to Brazil this season, we've got better tyre wear. We've got those upgrades that we had on the chassis over the course of this season, so I think we should be in a better shape with that tyre, maybe, to stretch it to that point where we can go crossovers onto the hard tyres. And also, I want to be punchier, because from P12, if Leclerc's up there in first place and the Red Bulls don't attack him, we need to limit this damage as much as we can and aim for that at least P4 position. So we need to do all we can to get up there. So going nice and aggressive. And with the rain also potentially on the way at the end of this race, who knows? Who knows? This could be a scintillating Brazilian Grand Prix. Let's get into it. This second last race of this season. It all comes down to this to set up the finale for next time. And we start this one in P12, a long way off one of our direct championship rivals. But here we go to 5 red lights here in Sao Paulo for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And we're underway, and it's a horrendous start there from Gasly now for Tauri. Good one for us. And we're alongside and around the outside of the Mercedes car. Verstappen, though, with the even bigger dive bomb. He's gone to overtake Bottas and Albon. Oh, there's been contact, and Bottas is round, and there was maybe a T-bone collision behind me, but Bottas is out this one, and the full course safety car is out. Leclerc still leads the way from Sainz to Ricciardo, but the full course yellow is out. The safety car is out on lap number 1. As we're at absolute manic turn 1. I think Verstappen, you know, me and Verstappen went either side of Hamilton, and then Verstappen continued to dive bomb Bottas and Albon it was. There were 3 abreast into the Senna S, and then a bit of contact made and a spin around for Bottas, and he is out of this one as we now go to the inside of Alexander Albon and get him on the restart. Really switched on the restart. Have to be, because we need to get up the order. But to be fair, even after that frantic start, myself and Verstappen did obviously go forward still, and we're up in P7 and 8 respectively, so it's already a very decent showing by lap number 3. But now it gets a little bit more difficult because we need to try and overtake Verstappen first of all, which won't be so hard. He does make life a little bit annoying for us because I thought he was going to pull to the right hand side. Instead we had to go to the right, and we try and squeeze him into turn 1, but he keeps the fight up there. So Verstappen not wanting to give up the position, but we get it eventually. We are on the faster compound tyre in the same car, so you would say eventually we would get up to speed. But now it might be tricky because the McLarens, they look quick in qualifying. You've also got Fiat up there who's still in P4, doing a mega job in that Works Renault car of ours, our engine supplier, doing very well these days. So these guys might be a little bit more tricky to pass. Let's see. Lap number 4 though, we are building some speed up, so we could get Norris into turn 1, tucked up behind the engine, overheating somewhat there. So we go down to lean mixture to try and cool down the engine whilst we overtake our fellow Brit into turn 1, turn 2, give him the room there, a little bit of a lift off, but we're able to hold it on the left hand side, and we're up into P6. So making good progress there on Lando Norris. Can we do the same thing with Esteban Ocon? A little bit further back now on lap number 7 as we close up here, but we're both closing up on the Renault as well ahead of us. But through turn 2, massive tank slapper there, and a huge save for us. That was massive. You saw there the speed we jolted left and right with. That could have been an absolute disaster class spin for us, and that wouldn't have just been a spin, that probably would have been in the wall, because the wall on the right hand side comes at you so quick if you go wide there and have a bit of a rear end snap. So that was quite close for us, so we try and recompose ourselves and try and go on hopefully on the next lap or two, and hopefully don't get stuck behind Ocon too much. And soon after that moment behind us, Verstappen now looking good to make a pass on Lando Norris on the outside. Lando squeezes Verstappen very much so to the outside there. They're so close on the left. Great camera angle this to see how fine it is on the left hand side. Verstappen really really flirting with making some big contact with the McLaren driver. DRS open though for him, and it's a bit of an awkward on board there, but you can see Verstappen is to the inside. We look back behind, and he's got the move done with DRS there, and that's going to try and inspire us, because on the same lap here, a little bit further down the road, lap number 8 that was, we're now looking to retry that overtake on Ocon. This time, maybe not lose the rear end so much, and actually this time around we'll be a lot closer on the last spend to actually make the move into turn 1 physically, rather than just setting up the move off the center S. So DRS open, using all the RS we've got left, running out a bit at the end of the lap, but there we go, easy does it on the left, cut back across on the racing line, and we're up into P5. So that elusive P4, the kind of quote-unquote max position I think we can get, is ahead of us by 1.7 seconds. The only issue is, though, tyre wear will kick in, and lap number 12, 3 laps later, and that right front tyre is on fire. The internal carcass temperature really quite warm, going to pretty much brick orange through sector 2 especially, so we're going to come in now a lap or 2 earlier than even I made earlier on the strategy screen onto the hard tyres. But, you know, last season we discovered the hard compounder tyre, you know, with some upgrades on the career mode car in later seasons, the hard compounder tyre at a place like Brazil is actually a really awesome race tyre. You go low enough fuel and just really wring the neck out of it, and it is a very raceable tyre. So hoping that we can have a drive like we did last season, where we just gained and gained time every single lap once these tyres rub it in, because if we can do that, we might have a chance of getting up towards the Red Bull cars, because after Kvyat, they were only a few seconds down the road. They've been kind of in their own DRS train of Leclerc, Sainz and Ricciardo ever since the get-go, so we'll have to kind of watch on that and see how that progresses. But meanwhile, we're now looking to overtake on the kind of outlap here on George Russell on the outside. He started the race on the hard tyres, so very worn out, but we make a massive dive to try and finish the move off, and that in turn actually invites Russell to come back at us a little bit. We do finish off the move eventually, but was a little bit overexcited under the brakes into turn 1 there, but we eventually got the move done, and now we're into P12 it is, and Mashasita is in for his first pit stop, so these guys are getting out of the way somewhat. We're closing up now to Sergio Perez. We make a half-hearted attempt to the inside there, but in the end, far too far back from the Mexican to make the pass here, so having to stick behind now lap 15 and look to set up the move maybe on towards lap number 16 this season. It'll be 20 laps to go then at that point, so still a long way to go. And remember, the rain is forecast to be on the way at some point at the end of this race, so we won't be on these tyres for the entirety. There's a big possibility we might switch to the intermediates if there is enough rain, so that's going to make things extra interesting as well, let alone trying to catch up to Kvyat and maybe that podium. Right now, still doing the job we have to do on circuit and closing up to Pierre Gasly now, who's done a great job being up here in P5 since the start of this Grand Prix, being on those hard tyres, but we should be able to make the pass, hopefully then this straight. DRS is going to open up right about now. We've got Rich Mix, plenty of fuel actually still to play around with for the end of this Grand Prix, and then ERS deploying very, very close though, under braking there. I really picked a line that was very, very fine on the left-hand side. They had to have a bit of a wobble to make sure we gave Gasly enough room and didn't make contact with him, and we're up into P5 though. So this is how the race order then is. It's Leclerc in first place still from the get-go, from lap number 1 into the Ferrari car. Second place is Carlos Sainz in the Red Bull, Ricciardo third, and then behind him is Daniel Kvyat doing an amazing job in the Works Renault car in 4th place. You know, I've mentioned it before, it will be really intriguing to see into season 4, you know, if Renault have a decent R&D reset window where they keep most of their aerodynamics upgrades, and if they maintain performance next season, we could have a really weird and unique dynamic of our engine supplier, you know, being one of our competitors, which obviously we've had in real life Formula 1 over the years, and it's always a very, very interesting dynamic when that happens, to be honest. But meanwhile, behind, we've got some moves being made by Ocon, that is, on the inside. Ocon on a 2-stop, though, so Verstappen will overtake Ocon easily, but he's also got those other cars of AlphaTauris to go and overtake, so Verstappen on the back foot a little bit. Meanwhile, back to the front fight. Sainz, he's looking a little bit closer to Leclerc right now, and you know what? This entire race, you've got to hand it to Red Bull. They've kept Leclerc honest. He hasn't ran away with this one. They've been there the entire time, and they're still within 1 second here, and Sainz looks a little bit closer, I think, than he was was on the previous lap, so you might get a good run here as we wind up the hill onto the new lap. And remember, for us, this is quite crucial. If the Red Bull cars can attack and overtake Leclerc, that will help us out in the championship. And there he goes on the right-hand side, the long way round. Leclerc keeps his foot in, though, and defends on the inside. The two of them are neck and neck through the entire center S. Bit of drifting going on and some contact made, and look how close it is between that front left tire of Sainz and front right of Leclerc. And Leclerc keeps his foot through the entire first sector and is really fighting back and is actually back ahead of the Spaniard into P1. But Sainz does not give up, and now he's the one with flat-out commitment up the hill into Sector 2. They've been side by side now for pretty much half a lap, but Sainz gets it, and there's a bit of contact with Leclerc, and Leclerc has to lift off, and Ricciardo now on the outside. There's the camera angle, and we switch back to the other side, and Ricciardo is through up into P2. What a mega lap that is for the Red Bull team, and a huge one for the championship. Sainz leads the Brazilian Grand Prix, Ricciardo in second, and Leclerc from first to third place. That's massive for the championship. That's the difference of 25 to 15 points there. 10 less points he might get on myself and Verstappen. That could be very important for the championship fight. Meanwhile, we continue to push on to chase after Kvyat, who's not too far off Leclerc. He's only 2-3 seconds off Leclerc, and I'm only 2.7 seconds off Kvyat. So we're actually going to be quite close to Leclerc, maybe by the end of the Grand Prix. Lap 24, we're low on fuel. You can see negative fuel, but where have I seen this before? Season 2, negative fuel, setting a purple lap time now. Lap 25, the tyres have finally started to grip up and rubber in a bit, and the hard tyres have come alive, and this car again has come alive at Sao Paulo on lower fuel. We know we can save the fuel later, especially if it's going to start to rain. We're going to be in leaner mixes to try and get some traction in the rain, so we can save the fuel then, and so we're looking very, very good. We're overtaking a lapped car of Magnus here, lap 26, 10 laps to go, and Kvyat is only 1.2 seconds away, although now you can see a bit of an issue with grip because the rain is falling. Look close enough at the chassis and the halo, you can see the droplets of rain are there, and actually especially so when you look back there behind us at the Magnus, and you would have seen some spray on the camera. The rain is here, it's coming down a little bit earlier than I thought, and that's going to cause us some issues as we continue to push after Kvyat. We now lost some time to him, and the gap is 3 seconds because the rain is getting quite heavy. I think it's probably time to come in on this lap 27, so it's going to be a late stint on Inters, but I think now we're losing the chance to maybe get the Renault, as we're already now having issues with the tyres and the grip. Look at that massive drift. We almost slam into the side of Magnussen and down the hill. Massive opposite lock just to keep the car in a straight line. It looks really cool, but it's so slow, and now we're off now on the braking, double lock up. The rain is fully there. There's too much standing water. I just can't get any grip, and you can see even trying to, just get back on circuit, very tentative because the rear end is snapping through that curb. You can see we're sideways again. The rear end steps in what is usually a flat out, kink in dry conditions, but the rain has come thick and fast now. We're really struggling, and into the pit lane. No! Oh, into the pit lane. We've had a calamity. It's happened again, just like we did on the previous corner. The double lock-up on the braking, lack of grip, and this time we've ran into the pit lane over the speed limit, and we've been hit with a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane entry, and that's just going to make matters a lot worse for us here. So we're going to be out. We're still in P5, but we're going to be down to P6 surely, because Verstappen is only a few seconds behind me. I think 4 or 5, so it's going to be quite close actually, to be fair, as we now come out lap 28. Looking on the top left, I think Verstappen's about 7 or 6 seconds behind us, that was. But I don't know how our pace is going to be on the Inters. And meanwhile, at the lead, that's Sainz in, but Ricciardo double stacks, and that means surely, yes it does, Leclerc is through. So not only have we been dealt with not catching Kvyat, being slapped with a penalty that might see us fall behind Verstappen, Leclerc is up into P2 because Red Bull double stacked. Ricciardo had to, yield, and so it's Sainz, Leclerc, Ricciardo, as you can see in the top left in third place, Kvyat P4, and for us here, we've got no pace on these Inters. My setup is fully for a dry Sao Paulo, and I've just not got that acceleration and grip in the corners. We overtake Magnussen, so the car is still quick, obviously, compared to other cars, but compared to my teammate in the same piece of machinery, he's catching me at a rate of knots. It's 2.3 the gap, so forget the 5-second time penalty. Verstappen's probably going to maybe have a good chance at overtaking me fair and square on circuit maybe. As we come through now to the last lap of the Grand Prix, Sainz crosses the line to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Leclerc will come home in second place with 18 points then. Ricciardo third, Kvyat P4, and for us, we are ahead of Verstappen still, but on this last lap of the Grand Prix, they've got that 5-second time penalty, so we're going to cross the line in P5, but we'll finish the race in P6, and that's going to be quite crucial then, that, you know, that last bit of that race, very, very crucial for the championship. So Leclerc gets 18 points. For P6, I get 8 points, I think. So I also have the fast lap of the Grand Prix, though, so I'll get 9 points, actually, in this race. So we're going to be quite close going into Abu Dhabi.
Victory for the team from Milton Keynes then, after a quality performance. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
So there you have it. Carlos Sainz wins the Brazilian Grand Prix, but Leclerc in P2. I thought we were going to get a little bit luckier with the P3. You know, Red Bull did so well, both of them, to overtake Leclerc. They looked really racy, but then the mistake there with the double stack, well, not really a mistake, just kind of, they had to do it because the rain was so heavy at that point. They had to double stack, and that gifts Leclerc up in second place. Like I said, we got 1 extra point fast up the Grand Prix, so we get 9 points, so Leclerc only gains 9 on us. So going into the final race of Season 3, we are 3 points ahead of Leclerc. Verstappen is still mathematically in the fight, but he's 20 points behind us, so really he's not. So after all of that, a season-long battle between myself, Leclerc, Verstappen, and Sainz, you know, the first 4 races were won by all 4 of us, you know, different winners, and then we've, you know, had so many yo-yos up and down. Sainz has led the championship, Leclerc's led, Verstappen's led, but here we are, after all of that, it's back again with myself versus Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari car. And it's time to go to Abu Dhabi with the thought of getting revenge for what happened in Season 2, making up for it. We've got the Constructors already sealed, so it's time to go bag that very first Drivers' Championship of ours next episode. But that one will have to wait, guys. But if you guys did enjoy that very chaotic penultimate Grand Prix, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.